For years, I thought renting meant we were falling behind. My wife and I both had decent jobs. We paid our bills. We saved money. We weren't living wild. So every time somebody said, "You're basically paying someone else's mortgage," it got under my skin. My name is Daniel Park. I was 29, married, and tired of feeling like renting made us less responsible. Maya and I wanted a home one day. We wanted space. We wanted stability. We wanted something that felt like ours. But when we finally ran the full numbers, we saw something nobody had explained to us. Buying wasn't automatically the smart move, not yet. The mortgage was only part of the cost. Once we added taxes, insurance, repairs, closing costs, and the money we'd have to pull out of savings, the picture changed. That's when we stopped asking, "Are we supposed to buy?" and started asking, "Does buying actually make our life stronger right now?" I used to hear that phrase all the time. Rent is throwing money away. People said it like it was common sense. Family said it, coworkers said it, people online said it every day. And for a while, I believed it. My wife and I had been renting the same apartment for a few years. It was clean, it was safe, the location worked for both of our jobs. The rent wasn't cheap, but we could handle it. Still, every time I paid it, I felt like I was doing something wrong, like I was sending money away and getting nothing back. Maya didn't see it exactly the same way. She wanted a home too, but she was more cautious than I was. I was the one who felt pressure every time someone asked, "So, when are you two buying?" It made me feel like we were behind. We were married, we had decent jobs, we paid our bills, we had some money saved. In my mind, that meant the next step was obvious. Buy a house. That's what adults did. That's what responsible people did. That's what successful couples did. At least, that's what I had been telling myself. So we started looking. At first, it was exciting. We'd sit at the table after dinner and scroll through listings. Some houses looked amazing. Big kitchens, extra bedrooms, driveways, small yards. Spaces where we could imagine holidays, family visits, maybe kids later. Then we started looking at the prices. That part brought us back to earth. The houses we actually liked were more expensive than we expected. The houses we could afford on paper were farther away, smaller, older, or needed work. I kept trying to make the numbers fit. Maya kept asking better questions. She'd say, "What would the full monthly payment be?" I'd say, "The mortgage calculator says this." Then she'd ask, "Does that include taxes?" Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. Then she'd ask, "What about insurance? What about maintenance? What about closing costs? What about furniture? What about the money we'd still need left after we move?" That's when I realized I had been looking at buying too simply. I was comparing rent to the mortgage. That was the wrong comparison. Rent was one number. Owning was a stack of numbers. The mortgage payment was only one piece. There was principal and interest, property taxes, homeowner's insurance, mortgage insurance if we didn't put enough down, repairs, maintenance, utilities that might be higher than our apartment, closing costs, moving costs, things we'd need right away, a lawnmower, washer and dryer, tools, maybe repairs the inspection didn't catch. The more we added, the less simple it looked. I remember one night we found a house we both liked. It wasn't fancy, it just felt possible. I ran the mortgage payment and thought, okay, this is higher than rent, but maybe we can stretch. Then Maya sat beside me with a notebook. She started adding the rest. Taxes, insurance, a maintenance estimate, a little extra for repairs. The difference between the house payment and our rent wasn't small anymore. It was several $100s a month. And that was before anything went wrong. I didn't want to hear it, not at first. I wanted buying to be the answer. I wanted the feeling of being done with renting. I wanted to stop hearing people say we were paying someone else's mortgage. But the numbers weren't trying to embarrass me. They were trying to warn me. The down payment was another problem. We had savings, but using most of it to buy a house would leave us thin. That bothered Maya more than it bothered me at first. I kept saying, "But we'd have a house." She said, "And what happens if the car needs work the month after we move?" I didn't have a good answer. She said, "What happens if one of us loses a job?" Again, I didn't have a good answer. We weren't broke, but buying that house would have made us fragile. That's the word that finally got through to me. Fragile. On paper, we might have qualified. In real life, we would have been tight. There's a difference. A lender might approve a payment that technically fits. That doesn't mean the payment fits your life. We started looking at the numbers a different way. Instead of asking how much house we could buy, we asked what buying would cost us each month compared to renting. Then we asked what else we could do with the difference. That changed everything. If owning the kind of home we wanted cost several $100s more each month, and if we stayed renting for now, that difference didn't have to disappear. We could save it. We could invest part of it. We could build a bigger emergency fund. We could strengthen our down payment without draining our accounts. We could keep our options open. That was the part I had never considered. Renting didn't automatically mean falling behind. Renting without a plan could mean falling behind. But renting with a plan was different. If we stayed in the apartment and spent every extra dollar, then yes, we'd probably look back and regret it. But if we stayed in the apartment and used the difference to build our future, that was not failure. That was strategy. We built a simple comparison. On one side, we wrote the real cost of owning. Not just the mortgage, everything we could estimate. On the other side, we wrote the cost of renting. Then we added what we would do with the difference. Emergency fund, house fund, investing, debt reduction. That was the first time renting looked like an active choice instead of a waiting room. I also learned about something called the price to rent comparison. The simple idea is this. You compare the cost of buying a home to the cost of renting a similar place. Not a tiny apartment compared to a big house. A similar place. Same area if possible. Similar size if possible. Similar lifestyle if possible. That part matters because people cheat the comparison. They compare a 2-bedroom apartment to a 3-bedroom house with a garage and a yard, then say buying gives them more. Maybe it does, but that's not the same housing. We had to compare honestly. If we wanted to buy a bigger place, we had to admit we were also choosing more space, more responsibility, and more cost. That wasn't bad, it just needed to be clear. Then we looked at how long we expected to stay. That was another piece I hadn't thought about enough. Buying and selling a home costs money. Closing costs when you buy, potential repairs, agent fees or selling costs when you leave. If you stay long enough, those costs may spread out over time. If you move too soon, they can eat up a lot of the gain. At that point in our lives, we weren't completely sure where we'd be in 5 years. Maya had career options. I had possible promotions that could move us. We wanted flexibility. Owning a home would have made moving harder. Not impossible, but harder. Renting gave us room to breathe while we figured out our next stage. That didn't mean we never wanted to buy. We did. We still do. But I started to understand that the right question wasn't rent or buy. The better question was rent or buy right now. Those are different questions. One is about identity. The other is about timing. I had made homeownership part of my identity before we were ready for the math. That's why the pressure hit me so hard. I thought renting said something about us. I thought it meant we hadn't grown up. I thought it meant we were behind other couples. But our bank account didn't care what other people thought. Our budget didn't care. The future didn't care. The numbers only cared about whether the choice made sense. Once I accepted that, I felt lighter. Not because buying was off the table, because rushing was off the table. We decided to stay in the apartment for at least another year. But we didn't just keep renting the same way. We made the difference visible. Every month we moved money into a house fund. We increased our emergency savings. We started investing a set amount automatically. We didn't wait to see what was left. We treated the plan like a bill we owed to our future. That part was important. Renting only helped us if we used the breathing room on purpose. We also set a number. Not just a down payment number, a full readiness number. We wanted money for the down payment, money for closing costs, money left over after closing, and an emergency fund that didn't disappear the day we got keys. That changed how we looked at listings. Before, I would see a house and ask, "Can we make this work?" Now I asked, "Would buying this make us stronger or weaker?" That question saved us from a few bad decisions. There was one house we almost went after. It looked good in the photos. The payment was high, but not impossible. A year earlier, I might have convinced myself to stretch. This time we looked at everything. The commute was longer. The insurance quote was higher than we expected. The inspection notes mentioned an older roof. The appliances were near the end of their life. None of those things meant the house was bad. But together they meant the house wasn't right for us. We passed. That felt strange. It felt like saying no to progress. But later, I realized it was progress. The old me would have been proud to get approved. The newer version of me wanted to still be okay 6 months after moving in. That's a better goal. The pressure didn't disappear. People still asked when we were buying. Some still said renting was wasteful. I stopped arguing with them. I just stopped letting their opinion make our decision. Most people don't see your full budget. They don't know your emergency fund. They don't know whether your job might change. They don't know your insurance quote. They don't know your closing costs. They don't know what kind of stress a payment will put on your marriage. So they can say whatever they want. They don't have to live with the payment. We do. That became our rule. The person giving the opinion doesn't make the payment. The person making the payment gets to run the numbers. Over time, our savings grew. Our investment account grew too. Not fast enough to brag about, but steady, and steady felt good. Instead of feeling like renters who were falling behind, we felt like renters who were preparing. That changed the way I walked into the apartment at night. It didn't feel like proof that we had failed. It felt like a place that was helping us get ready. That matters. I don't think renting is always better. I don't think buying is always better either. That's the point. A house can be a great decision. It can also be a heavy decision. It can build stability. It can also trap you if you buy too early, too expensive, or with too little savings left over. Renting can be a waste if you use it as an excuse to avoid planning. But renting can also be smart if it gives you flexibility, keeps your monthly costs lower, and lets you build money outside of a house. What changed for me was simple. I stopped treating buying as proof that we were doing well. I started treating it as a financial decision that had to earn its place. That made the choice clearer. For now, renting gave us a lower monthly cost, more flexibility, and more cash left to build. Buying would have given us ownership, but it also would have taken most of our savings and added pressure we didn't need yet. So we chose patience. Not fear, not failure. Patience. One day we may buy. When we do, I want the house to fit our life. I don't want our life squeezed around the house. I want to walk in with money still in the bank. I want to know the payment is safe. I want to know we can handle repairs. I want Maya to sleep at night. I want to breathe after closing, not panic. That's what running the numbers gave us. It gave us permission to stop chasing a timeline that wasn't ours. It gave us a plan. And it helped me see that rent wasn't automatically wasted money. The real waste would have been buying before we were ready, just to prove something to people who weren't paying the bill. Renting didn't mean we were failing. It gave us time, flexibility, and enough room to make the right move later. Once we stopped trying to prove something and started running the numbers, we could breathe again. Please like the video and subscribe to Broke to Breathing for more informative stories like this one.